This is the Chi-Rho Film Society. I am Pastor Neil, and today I react to the 1998 film The Truman Show. Good day to you this day, as yes, we are going to go through the Truman Show. So, as we go through this, I want to take you back. All right, we're going to go back a little ways back. Oops. We are going to go back to 1998. All right, Jim Carrey. He was a pretty big deal. He was he was a megastar. And it began with this movie. In 1993, the movie Ace Ventura: Pet Detective came out. And it was a huge success. His wild antics, his craziness, it was extremely popular. Later that same year, 1993, comes The Mask. Again, incredible, this comedic genius, incredible energy, uses his body very much in his humor. I mean, in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, he was talking with his rear end. Um, so The Mask, really over the top again. Then came Dumb and Dumber the same year. All three of these movies came out in 1993. All right, so these were with these three, and Dumb and Dumber, by many standards, it's still one of the all-time great comedies. And so at this point, these movies came out, and he is now a megastar with these three movies, which lands him this role. He was in Batman Forever playing the role of the Riddler. And again, very comedic version of the Riddler, not quite your comic book Riddler. And so here's the first four movies. Then another Ace Ventura: When Nature Call comes out, and again, a lot of physical humor, really over the top. Then we get The Cable Guy, kind of a blunder of a movie, did not go over really well, but still very comedic. And then you get the Liar Liar. I mean, you get that where again, this one's a little bit more adult in its humor, but he still has a very physical element. I mean, there's that whole scene where he's in the bathroom and somebody comes in and is like, "What are you doing?" "I'm kicking my, do you mind?" And so this is what we had from 1993 to 1997. These were the movies that Jim Carrey made. All right, he established himself as this major comedic actor. He established himself as an over-the-top comedian. And now 1998 comes around, and this movie comes out called The Truman Show. And a lot of people are this is what they expected from him. They expected something really, really funny. And to be fair, the trailers kind of found some of the kind of amusing scenes in the film, and that's what they advertised. And so people were expecting something like that. And that is not anywhere what they got. And there's some people that just flat out rejected the movie. This happens sometimes with comedic actors. Will Ferrell, more recently, and this is a movie I'd love to review at another point, but Will Ferrell was, known for Anchorman, Elf, Talladega Nights, these really over the top comedy movies, and then he does a movie like Stranger Than Fiction. There's hardly a comedic element in the movie, and it was a great movie, and I'd love to review it at some point. But people got upset and they rejected it. Similar thing happened with Jim Carrey when the Truman Show came out. They expected this over the top comedy like they had seen they seen in 7 movies in the last 4 years. All right? They expected more of that. And they didn't get it. They got a very different movie, and what I would argue is amongst the best, one of the best movies that Jim Carrey ever did. And I'm saying that because I'm a huge fan of Dumb and Dumber. In my opinion, from a comedic standpoint, Dumb and Dumber was his best comedy film. But The Truman Show began a new chapter in Jim Carrey's career. It's what led to, later he would do Man on the Moon, which had a nice blend of comedy and serious. He would later do things like The Majestic, which I enjoyed. I know not everyone did. And then probably I think possibly the best movie he did was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. But that came out in 2004, and then after that his career went weird, and he's had anyways, that's a whole nother conversation. But this is what he was. So Truman Show comes out, and now you have this incredible performance, this incredible film. Here are the 2 main characters in the film. You have Truman and Christoph. Christoph, played by Ed Harris, Ed Harris is a great actor. I think sometimes an underrated actor. If you've seen the show Westworld, or you know how good of an actor he could be, and he has been in this movie. He was extremely good. He got nominated for it. Jim Carrey in this movie was amazing in this film. Extremely underrated role. How he did not get nominated for some type of an Oscar is ridiculous. I think because of those previous 7 movies, people typecast him. They didn't think he deserved an Oscar because he had done these over the top ridiculous comedies. They would not nominate him, even though the man definitely deserved it. And so, in fact, the Golden Globes recognized what he did, and he did get Best Actor from the Golden Globes. The Truman Show is a movie, so this is a kind of a follow-up. So the reason why I'm looking at this movie, there's 2 reasons. So there's 2 reasons that I am looking at this movie, The Truman Show. And the reason is one is I'm continuing this practice that I started a couple of weeks ago, where I'm looking at movies that came out while I was in high school and had some level of popularity. The Truman Show would fall into that category. The other reason is it is a very nice follow-up to my review of Free Guy from the last week. Because Free Guy very, very much is leaning on the Truman Show. It's taking off elements from it. It's very much inspired by it. And so it's a very natural follow-up to that film. And so the first most obvious way that this movie is similar to the Free Guy, the movie Free Guy, is this picture you see right here. It's the picture that I used last week's recording about Free Guy, and that is a painted description of the allegory of the cave. All right. So the allegory of the cave, I'm going to rehash it. Comes from Plato's Republic. It's a story told by Socrates, or if you're a Bill and Ted fan, Socrates. But Socrates is telling it, and so you imagine that there are these men. So you can see them if you're watching the video version of this. You can see my arrow pointing to these men. They are chained. Behind them is a brick wall. And so they're chained to this wall inside of a cave, right? And the only thing they can do is stare at the wall. They can't see anything behind the wall, the brick wall. They can only see the wall that they are facing. Now, on the other side of this brick wall, you see the fire. And the fire is casting a light onto the wall. But there's these shapes. Why are there shapes? Well, the reason there are shapes is because you have these marionettes. And so you see these people walking up and down, showing them, and they're getting a story, an image. And they have an image and a message that these people want them to see. And so they're going up and down, showing it. But these guys don't know reality. They think that there is a horse on the other side, or a fox, or a soldier, or whatever. They think that they're out there, standing guard or whatever. But in reality, it's just these cutouts. They have a perceived truth, but they don't have actual truth. Well, one day, somebody breaks free of these chains. Like this guy right here. And see, he's looking into this. He realizes he's discovered the fire. He sees the fake reality that he's been told, and now he's gazing out to the sun, and he's seeing the beauty of the real world, but he could barely handle it. That's why his hand is in front of his eyes. To think about this is, think back when you think of a day when you spend all day inside. And I'm talking about like the windows are closed, you're in the darkened part of your house, and you've just been sitting watching TV all day or whatever. And you step outside for the first time, and you're like, my eyes, I can't handle it, right? Or it's at night, you're dead asleep, and so your parents, when you're a kid, maybe this happened. You're dead asleep, and all of a sudden your parents, boom, lights are on. I can't handle it, Mom. I can't. The lights hurt. Okay, that is what's going on here. So that's kind of that idea. So the light is blinding them. They can't quite handle it. They struggle with it. And then as you step out into the cave, you're adjusted to the light. You see the fullness of truth. All right? So the allegory here is the fire presents a fake truth. The sun is the real truth. All right? So what does this have to do with the Truman Show? Well, the Truman Show is all of that. The Truman Show, the movie is all about the main character. Is all about Christoph. So Christoph is created this world. Everybody in the world is an actor. There's a person that's been hired to be his wife. There's a person that's been hired to be his best friend. There's a person hired to be his coworker, hired to be his boss. All these different jobs, all these different spots, and people are hired. And Christoph has created this world for him. The only person that is autonomous, who is of his own will, he makes his own decisions, his own actions, is Truman. And so, hence the name True Man. He is the true man in the show. And so he is the one that's chained against the wall, right? He's the one chained against the wall, and he is only seeing what Kristoff wants him to see. And quite fitting that Kristoff's office is up in the moon, which up on the moon, and he's able to create his own sun, his own light, fake light, and everything like that to let Truman is only allowed to see what Kristoff wants him to see. And so early in the movie, there is a moment where it's fairly early in the movie. He steps out of the house, and this is one of the things that I think is really good in the movie is Truman, Jim Carrey's character, very very likable. And so he gets out of the house and he sees all these people and he says, "Hey, if I don't see you later, good afternoon, good evening, and good night." And he does this he does this a few times throughout the movie, and he does this thing where he's creating stories into the mirror, and they make him extremely likable. So I made the comparison between Free Guy and Truman Show last week, and I'm going to tell you that as much as I like the movie Free Guy, as much as I enjoyed it, it is not as strong as Truman Show. And part of that is in Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey, even though he is an over-the-top comedic actor, much like Ryan Reynolds is, Jim Carrey took on a whole new persona in this film. All right? He was not the Jim Carrey of the Dumb and Dumber movies or Ace Ventura movies or The Mask or even Liar Liar. He felt like a person. He felt like somebody you knew that you'd like. And it worked perfect in the context of the story, made him instantly likable, and as it slowly evolved as to the life that he was in, you felt yourself rooting for him. And this is a strength of the film, that you are rooting for him. You want him to get out. Ryan Reynolds, he has that likability, but I don't think he did it as good as Jim Carrey did. And that might be an unfair comparison, but it's just reality. Because Ryan Reynolds you can still see a bit of Ryan Reynolds. Jim Carrey, you did not see the Jim Carrey you'd grown accustomed to, and that's why it shocked everybody when this movie came out. Anyways, early in the movie, so he's likable. So early in the movie, there's a point where this light falls down from the sky, and the light says on it, Sirius. Which, if you're not familiar, Sirius is the brightest star in the sky. And this is supposed to be the light bulb moment. A light falls and he has a light bulb moment. And he looks at a light bulb. Light bulb moment. It's like, whoa, an idea, a thought. Is the world that I have been presented not reality? This is now you find out through the course of the movie he's actually had other moments, but for some reason this one really hit him. By the way, on a side note, I should actually mention something about the movie. One of the interesting thing about the Truman Show is, and I'm going to come back to this whole thing, but one of the things that you'll find in the Truman Show, the names have meanings, why they're named what they are, and we're going to get more to this a little bit later. Truman, he is the true man, and his last name is Burbank. Why did they pick Burbank? Well, see, this movie actually has a bit of commentary that is a bit anti-Disney. And I thought that was something that's been highlighted from other things I've read on it. So Burbank, California, is the headquarters for Buena Vista Studios, or Disney. And so calling him Burbank is like he's been bought by Disney Studios. The town that this takes place in is very similar to a town in Florida that is Disney Town. And it's like this really kind of a very eerie, similar town. Everything's picturesque, everything's perfect. And there is the dog that jumps up on him is a Dalmatian named Pluto. Now Pluto is not a Dalmatian, but anybody's familiar that Disney made a very famous movie called 101 Dalmatians. And Pluto, of course, is a very famous dog character um, in Disney. So you have a Dalmatian who's named Pluto, and who he jumps up on him, and he's kind of always aggressive. And then later, you actually have this moment where he's like baring his teeth, like so bit angry. It's yeah, it's a jab at Disney. But anyways, um, so this is so anyways, so that's just kind of a little bit in that movie that some people might not notice. So back to the allegory of the cave, right? So that light falls. Now he doesn't totally come to the clue. It's kind of like he's on that chain, so to speak. He's still in the chain. It's almost like he turned his head and began to wonder, or maybe the chain's just starting to come loose, or whatever. Something has happened that he's beginning to wonder about the reality presented to him on the wall, right? Well, it's the next day when things really start to come forth, and he runs into that man who was the guy that played his father, who they had written in the story that his father had died. Which, by the way, this gets you. This is when you begin to realize the cruelty of what they're doing. His father didn't really die. In fact, that wasn't really his father. He was told it was his father. He believed it was his father, but it wasn't really. And he was told that he died. This man that was acting as his father. Now, why did the man burst onto the screen? Was it so he could get showtime? Possibly. It's also possible that he did care for him. I mean, the people who played the role of the parents, watching this kid grow up all of his life, there's a very good possibility that they grew an affection for him. You know? And there's very likely that all of them did, to some degree, grow an affection for him, because gonna help you, but when you're around somebody that long, there will be transference. The actors will care for him, and Christoph does show that he cares for Truman, and so there is that transference, right? You probably heard that term, transference. They talk about this sometimes in medicine and stuff like that. But every person, anybody you have an interaction with, you have a transference. You have an emotional connection to everyone, no matter what. It's unavoidable. The challenge is what now that it varies. The longer you're with somebody, the more time you're with someone, the more they imprint on you, more they become a part of who you are. And so I imagine these actors, even though they're acting, they are feeling that connection. Now, one of the things that you see that's a challenge with these actors, and this is something people probably don't really dive too much into this movie, and the movie really doesn't consider much the actors. I mean, you have these scenes where they're kind of claiming these things. This is my life. It is the Truman Show or whatever. But you imagine how complex it's got to be for them. They do have their own life. They have their own reality, but this guy doesn't know. It's almost like they're living a double life, you know? And you got to imagine the complex emotions it would have to have for everyone. So yeah, it was a really so that day though, when he sees the father, that's when reality begins to open up for him, and he begins to see, and he's struggling with it. It's like the man here in the picture. You see the eyes. He can't handle the truth. He's struggling. Truth, you can't. Sorry. Invoking another movie. You can't handle the truth. But he's struggling with it. Then he begins to come to terms with it, and it's when he fully comes to terms that he sets sail. And I'm going to actually play this scene because I think it's going to be it's going to be a huge scene to deal with. And we're going to go into some scripture in a little bit. But I want to go to the scene here, all right? So I'm hoping, and I'm going to have some little over commentary, and so I apologize if I'm talking over it. It hopefully will help me not get completely flagged by YouTube, so it doesn't get taken down because I am following. It's copyright protected. This is called educational clause. So, but anyways, so I'm gonna have it over, and so we're gonna play this clip. It's the last scene of the movie. It came out in 1998. I doubt I'm spoiling anything. So let us play this scene. You hear that music? Beautiful music. This is just an absolutely wonderful score throughout the entire movie. The hero shot, they talk about it in the movie. Okay, so you see right there on the screen, you can see right on um the sale, you see a number on it. It's 139. When you watch this movie, this is such a powerful moment. And I mean, this is just amazing acting. I mean, you feel that despair when he realizes he just hit a wall. How do you get proving that he was right, but how do you get through? How do you get through it? Man, and that music. Beautiful score. I mean, you just feel that. That emotion as he's pounding, hoping he could break through. And they say this man, he deserved an award for this. Now watch this, how he's walking. And I'm going to come to this a little bit. You're going to watch him for a little bit here. What does it look like he's doing? It looks like he's walking on water, doesn't it? I want you to note that. He looks like he's walking on water. Then there's these steps. It's built into the sky, right? What does it look like? A stairway to heaven? He's ascending.
I want to talk to him.
Interesting you realize there's a camera on one of his clothes, probably, or somewhere.
Truman, you can speak. I can hear you.
See, it's masking a god. It's like as if he is God.
Who are you? I am the creator of a television show that gives hope and joy and inspiration to millions. Then who am I? You're the star. Was nothing real? You were real. What made you so good to watch? Listen to me, Truman. There's no more truth out there than there is in the world I created for you. Same lie. The same deceit. But in my world, you have nothing to fear. I know you better than you know yourself.
Never had a camera in my head.
Afraid. That's why you can't be. watching when you were born. I was watching when you took your first step. I watched you on your first day of school. The episode when you lost your first tooth. You can't leave, Truman. You belong here.
That's a key moment right there. And we'll come back to that.
Talk to me. Say something. Well, say something, goddammit. You're on television. You're live to the whole world.
In case I don't see ya. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna stop it there, and yeah, I'm watching that movie. Even though I've seen the movie many times, like, even watching that scene, I get a little tear in my eye just because it's just so much joy. It's such a powerfully acted scene, such a wonderfully done scene. Great performances by both Ed Harris and Jim Carrey. Now, the thing that I wanted to emphasize, and you didn't see all of that journey as he's going in, he's taken that boat in. There's some more even before. So the name of the boat that he's on, it's called Santa Maria, which you can't help but hear. It's Saint Mary. That's what Santa Maria is, Saint Mary. Mary is, of course, the mother of our Lord. And so Saint Mary is carrying him through this water. And there's a point where he's on this boat and he is thrown into the water and he's drowning, almost like he's being immersed in water. Sounds like baptism maybe. And there's even a point where you see he ties himself to the boat while he's doing this, and he's in cruciform. So if you don't know what cruciform is, this would be a cruciform, or like what so right there, see, in the shape of the cross, that's a cruciform. And so you see a brief moment that he's like that. And so Jesus is called the true man in scriptures. Truman is playing a bit of a Jesus character. And so he hits the wall, right? And like that very emotional scene, and it looks like he's walking water. Jesus walked on water, right? He ascends up the stairs, like Jesus ascending into heaven, right? But when he gets to the top of now one of the things on the boat, and I mentioned it during the video, is on the sail it says 139, and there's a significance to this. And let me read Psalm 139. It says, "O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it all together. You hem me in behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high, I cannot attain it. Where shall I go from your spirit, or where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your right hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light about me be night, Even the darkness is dark, not dark to you. The night is bright as the day, for darkness is as light with you. For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you. When I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them. How precious to me are your thoughts, O God! How vast is the sum of them! If I would count them, they are more than the sand. I awake, and I am still with you. Oh, that you would slay the wicked, O God! O men of blood, depart from me. They speak against you with malicious intent. Your enemies take your name in vain. Do I not hate those who hate you, O Lord? And do I not loathe those who rise up against you? I hate them with complete hatred. I count them my enemies. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. And see if there be any grievous way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. So I read all of that because what is read in here is very much echoing what Christoph is saying to Truman. And this is where the names become relevant. His name is Christoph. Christ of is his name. And so, and when you see him talking to Truman, it's coming out of the clouds and there's sun blazing down on him as if he is God. But he's not. And there are a couple points where you might be thinking that the movie is making a case that this is an anti-God thing, that he sees everything. This is an atheistic or angry at God type of movie. It could be. And there's a possibility that is what it's going with, but I'm going to argue that maybe it's not. And I'd actually argue that Christoph is the fake Christ. All right? I mean, there's so much imagery drawing to Scripture as we go through this scenes. Like I said, 139 to Psalm 139 is very obvious. The Santa Maria, the walking on water, the cruciform, looking like he's being baptized, looking like he's ascending on the stairways to heaven. You know, on the stairway to heaven. I think that song. So you cannot mistake that image. And so what you realize that Christoph is not Christ. He is not God. He thinks he is. He thinks he is a Christ. He thinks he is a God. He thinks he's created a salvation not just for Truman, but for those who watch. Salvation from the ugliness of the world. But the reality is what he has presented is a grand lie. And, Satan, he's the father of lies, right? And so maybe this is giving a little bit of an interest, is that Christoph is not so much of a god, more of a Satan character, but not completely. Because you do see that Christoph he does care for Truman. Because remember that transference thing? Given what Truman did, given what Christoph did, watching Truman his entire life, there's no way transference wouldn't happen. Because ultimately, Christoph is a human. He's a human in the context of the show. Truman's a human. Christoph is a human. They both are. And he has emotions. He has connections. He cannot help but to some degree be emotionally connected to Truman. Which shows he may think he's Christ, that he is the God, but he isn't. And the moment that I think really captured, in case anybody was thinking that they're trying to make God to be the enemy, I think there's one very quick moment that tells you differently, and that is when That is when Sylvia, the love interest, who he's been trying to get to, is watching, and you see this moment when he's having this interaction. In case you have any doubt, and the exact moment it happened, it's right then. It's to shake that doubt of this idea that this is some angry at God type movie. You see her. She prays. It's very brief. She is praying for Truman to the true God. It's a very brief, simple, subtle moment. But I think given the level of detail to this film, I don't think that's accident. I think they made sure that she did that. She didn't say, "Oh, please, Truman." She said, "Oh, please, God." She could have hoped for Truman. Come on, Truman, do it. They made sure it was almost a type of prayer to let you know that there's a real God and Kristoff isn't it, even though Kristoff thinks he is. And it even gets more so when he's saying, "I know you better than you know yourself." What does Truman say? He says, "You never had a camera in my head." Remember what it says in verse 23? "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts." God knows the thoughts. He doesn't have a camera in your head, but he knows your thoughts. All right, so you had two little indicators that this is not God, and that's Truman is basically telling Krista, you may think you're God, you may be acting like you're God, but you're not. So what is actually happening here? And I believe it's actually an allusion to another account in Scripture. This is Matthew chapter 4. It says that Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. And after fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. And the tempter came and said to him, "If you are the Son of Man, the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread." But he answered, "It is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." Now I'm going to drop down a little bit because there's one more temptation he'll command us. Verse 7, it says, Jesus said to him, "Again it is written, you shall not put the Lord God to your test." Again, the devil, now here's the key part. The devil took Jesus to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. And he said to him, "All these I will give you if you will fall down and worship me." Then Jesus said to him, "Begone, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve." Then the devil left him, and behold, angels came and were ministering to him. In the movie, Kristoff was offering Truman a kingdom. He's telling him this whole world was built for you, entirely for you. You have the whole world watching you. You can't turn away. You can't leave, Truman. All you have to do is bow to the story, to the episodes, the reality that I have given you. Worship me, serve me, Kristoff is telling him, and you can have this kingdom. And the world is even yours because you're the most popular person in the world. And he didn't say, "You shall worship the Lord your God alone." Instead, he turned around and said, "If I don't see you later, good afternoon, good evening, good night." And he leaves. See, this is what, like I said, this is Truman Show was truly one of the greatest movies. A phenomenal screenplay, phenomenal soundtrack, great acting performances from Jim Carrey and Ed Harris, and even the supporting cast. Lesser named actors that nobody really knows. So I'm thinking of people like Laura Linney, who played Truman's wife in the movie. She did really good. Noah Emmerich, who played Lewis, or played Marlon, who was playing the role of Truman's best friend. He did really good. I mean, there's really, really good. And I mean, even the way the movie manipulates you at times. It actually portrays a little bit how Hollywood plays you. There's a scene that's kind of an irony. So it's a really twisted irony, and this is, again, they used this wonderful soundtrack score to get you into it. And so there's this scene. So the father plays when there's towards the end of the movie. It's well, the last half of the movie. We'll just say that. Truman and Laura Linney's character, so his wife, they get into a fight, and she leaves him, and basically leads into her leaving him, and so he ends up going with Meryl, and they're sitting on the edge of this bridge, and they're talking, and this is where he actually shows some good acting, and he's telling him like, there's if everybody's in on it, then I'd be in on it. And so he actually does really good because he's playing sincerity. You feel like he must be telling the truth, but the movie keeps reminding you that everything he is saying is being spoken to him in his ears. And so the depth of the deception, it just messes with your emotions, and this is brilliance on the part of the movie. And then he says, "There's a reason I came to you today. I found him. He's got quite a story to tell. The father is walking down this bridge, like a story, like a TV show would do. Reality rarely works this way, but this is so much like a TV show. And you're watching this scene, and they're playing this incredibly powerful, emotional music, and Truman is in tears and so much joy and sadness and confusion and grief because now he's seen his father. But the movie is showing you the composers of the Truman series is, they're playing the music, and they're playing these instrumental chords, and it's manipulating you to feel happy and sad and grateful for him. But again, there is this twisted nature that it's in the context of the movie, it's not real. It was scripted by Christoph. And this is what a lesson on emotivism, how people can use emotions to manipulate us to believe a false truth, and we'll think the truth is true because they had manipulated and twisted our emotions to believe it. And so this is the whole thing of the movie. It's all about what is truth. The truth that is presented to us versus real truth. All right? And so many different ways that we are convinced to believe a certain truth, whether it be based on emotions or just a representation of the facts, a marionette to the facts, a marionette to the reality. So from a Christian standpoint, the light that is the true truth is Christ. And it's only through that illumination that we can see truth. Everything is illuminated by him. Without that, without the truths that we have right here in the scriptures, we can never see full truth. This is why we need to be in the Word. That's why we need to be in the sacraments. That's why we go to worship, to be strengthened, to be renewed, to know what truth is in a world filled with deceit. So much of our division in this country right now, this isn't guiding us. Social media is guiding us. The news, and people want to blame just CNN and MSNBC or whatever, and they're warranted, and people want to blame Fox News, and that's warranted too. But it's not just that; it's the little random websites online, the memes. There's so much falsehood. I mean, no one's living. So many Christians right now, they're living by the truth of their political persuasion. They'll change this in the names of their politics rather than changing their politics in the name of what this says. We're falling for the marionettes so bad in this age. In fact, we want it. To look at this, to gaze upon this light, it hurts. It's gonna strain our eyes. And we're going to talk a bit more about this allegory of the cave in my next movie, the next movie I'm going to do is The Matrix, because I think it's a natural follow up to these two movies, and again, it's still fitting into my high school year movies. But it hurts to gaze into it, but we need this truth. This is truth. This is life. So that's where I'm going to end. I hope this was good for you and interesting for you, or whatever, or beneficial, got you thinking. And there's a lot, like I said, there are so many good movies, so many movies out there that you could talk about like this. And so have a blessed evening, a blessed Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days whenever you're watching this. So the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you, be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you, give you his peace. Amen. I guess it's cliche. Peace out.